This is CNN Tonight. I'm Don Lemon, and we have breaking news tonight on the Russia investigation. Here's what Buzzfeed News is reporting: that President Trump directed Michael Cohen to lie in his testimony to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. And this is stunning. They're also reporting that Trump supported a plan, listen to this, set up by Michael Cohen to visit Russia during the campaign to meet Vladimir Putin in person. BuzzFeed also says that Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team learned about Trump's directive for Cohen to lie to Congress through interviews with multiple witnesses from the Trump org, as well as emails, texts, and other documents. CNN has not yet confirmed the report. We have a lot to get to this hour. Let's begin with CNN's Sarah Murray. Sarah, this is stunning, this BuzzFeed report that President Trump directed his attorney to lie to Congress about the Moscow Tower project. Tell us about the reporting. What are you hearing?
I mean, it is a wild story because, you know, if this is accurate, and as you pointed out, CNN has not independently confirmed it, it's an indication that the president was, in fact, trying to obstruct justice. Now, the way that BuzzFeed has put it, they cited two federal law enforcement officials to say that President Trump directed Michael Cohen to basically say the discussions about the Trump Tower Moscow project ended earlier than they did. So it wouldn't look like Donald Trump was trying to negotiate this project while he was the GOP nominee in 2016. Now, the story also cites this line. It says the special counsel's office learned about Trump's directive for Cohen to lie to Congress through interviews with multiple witnesses from the Trump organization and internal company emails, text messages, and a cache of other documents. And Don, you can bet if the special counsel is planning on relying on this, if this is true, they would have to have documents to back it up, because everyone knows at this point that Michael Cohen is a witness with a lot of problems. He's a guy who's already pled guilty to lying before Congress, who's shown he's been willing to make things up to protect the president, and so in this case, you know, could certainly be making things up to protect himself if, in fact, this is somehow traced back to him. We don't have these documents that can corroborate these conversations at this point. What we do, though, have tonight is a comment from Rudy Giuliani to CNN and other outlets that says, if you believe Cohen, I can get you a good deal on the Brooklyn Bridge. And I think this is what we're going to see from the president's legal team, essentially saying that Cohen is a liar and you can't believe anything.
Interesting. So what has the position been about the Trump Tower Moscow project from President Trump?
Well, if you want to talk about credibility problems that Michael Cohen has, obviously, Don, President Trump has the same kind of credibility problems. He was the person who was out there throughout the entire campaign saying, I have no relationship with Russia, I have no business deals with Russia, I have no potential business deals with Russia. And then when it came out that, in fact, they were talking about a Trump Tower Moscow project much longer than President Trump and then candidate Trump were originally forthcoming about, he said, you know, essentially this was no big deal. Everyone knew about it at the time. It didn't go anywhere, and really tried to downplay it, although obviously the fact that the special counsel is looking into it is an indication that Robert Mueller is interested, Don.
No collusion, no collusion, no collusion, right? That is what we have been hearing all along from the president, from his team. But that message seems to have been intentionally muddied last night by Rudy Giuliani. Is Rudy Giuliani trying to walk that back, or just add to all of this confusion, Sarah?
You know, he's insisting that he really didn't mean anything by it. It's being misinterpreted, this idea that he said, you know, no collusion by Donald Trump. I don't really know what everyone else was up to. He tried to clarify this comment a number of different times today and essentially say, look, I have no evidence that anyone else in the campaign colluded about anything, but my client is Donald Trump. I'm trying to protect my client, the President of the United States, and that's who I was speaking for, and that's what I was trying to make clear. But I think the reality, Don, is that they've been surprised by a lot of the developments in this case. I mean, Paul Manafort sharing polling data, I think, is a good example of something no one really expected to see coming in this. And so, you know, he could say that this was just sort of an innocent misspeak, but maybe it's an indication that they're trying to brace themselves for other bombshells that they didn't necessarily know were coming.
All right, Sarah, thank you. I appreciate your reporting on this. I'm going to bring in now Ryan Lizza, A4 Ryan, who is the author of Under Fire, reporting from the front lines of the Trump White House, and Garrett Graff, the author of The Threat Matrix Inside Robert Mueller's FBI and the War on Global Terror. Good evening to all of you. So, Ryan, let me start with you. Give me your reaction to this BuzzFeed report.
I mean, my first reaction is that the two 20th century impeachments, Nixon and Clinton, the articles of impeachment drawn up by the Judiciary Committee in both of those cases, subornation of perjury encouraging someone to perjure themselves. That was a part of Article 1 in the Nixon impeachment. Of course, he resigned before that got anywhere. And that was a part of the Clinton impeachment as well. It was one of the shakier parts, frankly, I think, of the Clinton impeachment. But encouraging someone to lie to Congress, to the FBI, to any duly situated federal official or investigative body is a federal crime. And so this is probably one of the most serious pieces of reporting in the 2+ years of this Russia investigation.
All right, let me go through some of this, and I want you guys to respond if you can to brief answers, because I got to get a bunch of stuff in. Trump received 10 personal updates from Michael Cohen and encouraged a planned meeting with Vladimir Putin. Okay, President Donald Trump directed his longtime attorney Michael Cohen to lie to Congress about negotiations to build a Trump Tower in Moscow, according to 2 federal law enforcement officials involved in an investigation of that matter. April, what do you think about this reporting? I mean, if this proves to be true, again, we haven't independently confirmed it here at CNN. As Ryan says, this is huge.
Yeah, it's big. Ryan is absolutely right. But I'm going to say this: if Michael Cohen has done what he's done in the past, what's alleged, and he's acknowledged, why is this any different? Really, he was his fixer and his cleanup guy, the guy who would get his hands dirty, and this just really. Puts, if this report is accurate, it just puts into, once again, the box that we already have about what Michael Cohen was for the president, what he had done, well, for civilian or nominee Trump at the time.
But April, this is not about Michael Cohen. This is about the action of the person who is president. This is about his actions at the time.
It is.
And it's according to multiple sources from the very organization of the president and of Michael Cohen.
I understand, but what it does, Michael Cohen once again puts another nail in that coffin for this president, because he had been doing things for the president. This is big. This is yet again another thing. We've heard so much. We've heard about payments. We've heard about this. We've heard about that. And now this is just another thing for the president to tell him to move the time in 2016 when he was knowingly a candidate, and he knew, and this also shows that there wasn't a learning curve. He knew what he was doing. Yeah. But this, it's just yet again another thing.
But Garrett, here's the thing. He is telling the American public one thing, right? And then doing another thing behind the scenes, trying to get a business deal instead of focusing on the business of the American people. He's trying to get a business deal for a Trump Tower in Moscow, and then eventually lying about it.
Absolutely. I think that this is, Ryan and April, I agree completely. This is some of the biggest, most substantial new allegations that we have seen. 3 things stand out to me in it really quickly. The first is that this is based on Trump Organization documents and testimony from witnesses inside. I mean, that's a really good way to think about just how much visibility Bob Mueller has into the depths of the Trump Organization's business dealings over the last couple of years. The second is that this focuses on the lies to Congress, which is, I think, going to make it much harder for Congress to ignore this. I mean, this isn't sort of something that they can brush away. This is something that arrives immediately on their doorstep. And the third thing is, again, this shows how much knowledge Bob Mueller has amassed that we don't know, and that this obstruction case, which we sort of think of very simply as, well, did he fire Jim Comey and try to block the Russia investigation in May of 2017? Well, this obstruction case, if and when it comes from Bob Mueller, may actually stretch all the way up until the last couple of weeks. I mean, this is a pattern of activity that is ongoing, and Bob Mueller is interested in all of it.
Yeah. Trump also encouraged, let me find the quote. Trump also encouraged Cohen to plan a trip to Moscow during the campaign where the candidate could meet face-to-face with Putin. Ryan, President Trump was trying to get a face-to-face meeting with a foe of the United States, allegedly, according to Buzzfeed, during a presidential election campaign to get something of tremendous value for his personal business. Is that compromise?
You stated it very well. And yeah, this is, I mean, this report, the more I sort of process this report, it's just incredible detail about the two biggies of the Russia investigation, right? The collusion aspect, right? This Trump building a relationship and trying to build a relationship not just with folks in Moscow, but with Putin himself, while pursuing a financial, while pursuing a project there. And then when it sort of unravels and is disclosed, telling his top lawyer to lie about it, allegedly, according to this report. So this goes to the heart of everything we've been talking about for the last couple of years, the collusion and the cover-up